Hey, this is Tyler from Subspace Transmissions.
And I'm Cam.
Cam, we were talking a lot about Star Trek Discovery during our latest podcast this episode. We're talking all about whether or not Star Trek has a prequel problem. Of course, it's been about 15 years since we last visited the 24th century or beyond, and we got into the fact that maybe this spore drive that the Discovery has right now, it's creating maybe some narrative problems with the show, especially going into Season 2. And I'm wondering from your perspective, can the spore drive be solved in a way that resolves some of the continuity issues as well as some of the storytelling issues that's going on?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I think maybe I don't know that you ever could have. The problem is that I can totally buy that this technology is unstable and can't be worked. We saw that in the Mirror Universe arc, that Mirror Universe Stamets was going to destroy the universe using it. So it's unstable, right? But the problem is, I have a hard time believing that 100 years from the point of which this show ends, they haven't re-examined this and maybe figured it out.
And the other issue that I've got to come down on is okay, let's say it's unstable and they give up the spore drive. I also have a feeling that if they ever wanted to use it again, the writers would be like, yeah, they fixed it for just this one episode. And then, wait, it's busted again. And I feel as if it doesn't really follow the in-universe rules, which makes it frustrating from a narrative perspective as well.
Yeah, and the fact that showrunners have said something along the lines of, because there was questions of whether they were going to retire the spore drive, and they said, if you have a Ferrari, are you going to gun it every now and again? And it's like, so what are you saying exactly? We're going to have this spore drive dormant, but hey, this episode requires it to get us from A to B, so there it goes? That seems to me just the problem is you've now introduced this device that they are basically now saying is a device you use just to when you want things to happen.
Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, which to me is a problem because there's nothing that I can connect the spore drive to from a prequel point of storytelling. There's nothing I can connect the spore drive to in the future of Star Trek that we've seen that I can go, well, I can understand how that got to point B in terms of the technology or anything. It's so outside the norm of Star Trek that it feels alien, one could say.
But does it also seem a little bit odd that you have this, drive that can get you anywhere in the universe?
Sure.
And aside from just the Mirror Universe, they've only really done it against the Klingon Federation border. They've only gone trips around there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to be off exploring wherever the Traveler went? Or going to a different...
No, they want to stay away from where the Traveler went.
But going to a different galaxy, maybe you pop in on Andromeda, something along those lines. But we've been in this tiny little pocket of the Alpha Quadrant this entire time when you've got this just mammoth, gargantuan sort of advancement in technology. And it seems as if they haven't even seized on all the storytelling opportunities that even exists here.
Not only that, but there's the idea that when you watch the Berman-era shows, or even the films with the original crew, there was a real sense of oh man, the Klingons have cloaking technology. Or the Romulans as well. How do we combat this? Well, we got a spore drive that can take us anywhere in the galaxy. That really evens the ante, whereas before, there was a real sense of oh boy, they have some sort of upper hand.
Yeah. And at this point, I just wonder if it's a fundamentally flawed, A, storytelling device, and then B, I guess, technological device that I don't see it ending or resolving well in any way that's going to be satisfying for most of the fans out there.
Do you think that the spore drive would have worked for you if the show had been set in, say, the 25th century?
Perhaps, but they would have had to dedicate themselves to really exploring. And we didn't get much exploration, if any exploration, in Star Trek Discovery. Right. So I would like it if, yes, they are going to go to explore and find new life, new civilizations on strange new worlds. I'm hoping maybe Season 2 has a little bit more of that. What about you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, something like the spore drive could take them beyond the Alpha Quadrant, which obviously the original series never really did. And so I guess it's useful for that, but I do question then why this show is a prequel.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. If they actually used it for all of these different things, then how come the Delta Quadrant wasn't mapped out in advance for Voyager? So we get the feeling that the spore drive, we never really used it that much throughout all of Star Trek canon.
Right.
So we're just following this crew for the last year. They have a spore drive. They've only used it against the Klingon Federation border. And for whatever reason, there's no more spore drives going forward in the Federation after this.
Well, here's my little fan theory. Okay, if you watch the 2011 Thor movie, There's a lot of talk about the Great Tree of the Universe, which is stuff Stamets referred to as well in regards to how the spore drive worked. We know Chris Hemsworth is signed and sealed for Star Trek IV. Is Thor coming?
No.